The Blue Boobie. The Blue Boobie lives on the bare rocks of Galapagos and fears nothing. It is a simple life. They live on fish, and there are few predators. Also, the males do not make fools of themselves chasing after the young ladies. Rather, they gather the blue objects of the world and construct from them a nest. An occasional galloise package, a string of beads, a piece of cloth from a sailor's suit. This replaces the need for dazzling plumage. In fact, in the past 50 million years, the male has grown considerably duller, nor can he sing well. The female, though, asks little of him. The blue satisfies her completely, has a magical effect on her. When she returns from her day of gossip and shopping, she sees he has found her a new shred of blue foil. For this, she rewards him with her dark body. The stars turn slowly in the blue foil beside them, like the eyes of a mild savior. Consumed. Why should you believe in magic? Pretend an interest in astrology or the tarot. Truth is, you are free, and what might happen to you today, nobody knows. And your personality may undergo a radical transformation in the next half hour. So it goes. You are consumed by your faith in justice, your hope for a better day, the rightness of fate, the dreams, the lies, the taunts. Nobody gets what he wants. A dark star passes through you on your way home from the grocery. Never again are you the same. An experience which is impossible to forget, impossible to share. The longing to be pure is over. You are the stranger who gets stranger by the hour. The Seahorse. My pet Seahorse was acting sick this morning. He must have eaten something that didn't agree with him. I thought of taking him to the doctor, but couldn't find one who would see him. I looked up seahorses in a medical textbook, and it suggested mouth-to-mouth respiration. So I reached in his aquarium and pulled him out. I placed my mouth on his and put my thumb and forefinger on his abdomen and started breathing on his mouth. I squeezed my thumb and forefinger back and forth as I breathed. After a while, I started to fill with gas. I looked down and my body had grown enormous. I started to rise away from the seahorse toward the ceiling. I bounced around until I finally went out the window. I rose in the sky and floated around until I went to sea. I started to lose altitude and crashed in the waves below. I started swimming toward shore. A boat came along and picked me up. The captain asked me what I was doing there so far from shore. I hated to tell him the truth, but I did. A seahorse breathed in my mouth, I said. You're lucky to be alive. That's a terrible thing. There's nothing worse, he said. But he was sick. I was trying to save him, I said. He was faking it. He was just trying to lure you in, he said. Really? I feel so stupid, I said. Well, at least you're alive. A lot of great men died like that. Jesus, Napoleon, he said. Jesus? Jesus died breathing the breath of a seahorse, I said. Sure. They had to cover that up, of course. That wouldn't do for the savior of mankind, he said. I don't feel so bad now. Thanks for telling me, I said. Oh, you're in good company, all right, he said. The sky is falling like bunnies. Oliver sat in his chair like milk in a bottle. No, that isn't right. Oliver sat in his chair like a stick in mud. That's not it. Oliver sat in his chair like an air in the mouth. That couldn't be right. Oliver sat in his chair like poison in a sandwich. Nope. Oliver sat in his chair like a man on a horse. Not quite. Oliver sat in his chair like a man in a mud hole. Oliver sat in his chair like a pixie on a rosebud. I think that might be it. He bent over and picked up his pencil. Then he started to write. He wrote in a big circle all around the paper, then smaller and smaller until it was just a dot. Then he stared at the dot for a long time until he nearly fell out of the chair. He decided that it was a bad idea and stopped. He wadded the paper up and threw it in the wastebasket. Actually, he missed the wastebasket. Oh well, he was never much good at basketball. In high school, he failed to make the team. He looked out the window. It was snowing. In fact, it had been snowing hard for hours. No one was plowing. The street and his driveway had what appeared to be a foot of snow. Oliver felt paralyzed. He couldn't move. A bunny jumped over his head. Then Beth came into the room. "What are you doing here?" she said. "Just sitting," Oliver said. "What do you mean, just sitting?" she said. "That's what I'm doing, just sitting," he said. "I've never heard of anybody just sitting. You must be doing something else, like watching the stars fall, or the garbage truck coming up the street, or a rattlesnake getting ready to strike. I mean, isn't there anything else in your picture?" she said. "Not really," he said. "Well, maybe you're dead. Did you ever think of that?" she said. "I don't think so," he said. "Can you get out of that chair?" he said. "I don't know. I seem to like it here," he said. "You don't look like you do. You look like you're miserable," she said. "I'm trying to figure out how that bunny got into the house," he said. "What bunny? I don't see any bunnies," she said. "One jumped over my head a few minutes ago," he said. "I don't believe you. You're crazy," she said. "No, I'm telling the truth," he said. "Sitting in one place too long causes you to hallucinate. That's a proven fact," she said. "Ask the bunny about that," Oliver said. "There is no bunny," Beth said. "Just as there is no Oliver and no Beth," he said. "Now you're getting metaphysical on me," she said. "I'd like to, but I'm too tired," he said. "Wake up. The sky is falling," she said. "That's not the sky. That's just a bunny I once knew," he said. "My father and me. A man called me today and said he was my father. I said, 'That's nice, but my father is dead.' He said, 'Well, I'm back, and I just wanted you to know if you need anything, I'll be there for you.' He gave me his number and said goodbye. I hated that phone call because it upset me a great deal. My father had died when I was a small child. I didn't even remember him. But my mother had told me how brave he was, how kind and good. Now this imposter was causing me to acknowledge how little I really knew. But I couldn't get him out of my mind. He didn't deny he had been dead. He just said he was back. I went to work, as usual. I met with friends. I didn't say anything to any of them. I let 2 weeks pass before I couldn't stand it anymore. Then I finally called the number he had given me. He answered, and we set a date for the next night. We met in a bar near where I lived. He asked me what I did for a living. I told him I was an accountant. Then he asked me if I had any girlfriends. I said, a few. We sat there in silence for a while. I asked if he had lived around here for long. He said, not long. I asked where he had lived. He said, oh, here and there. He asked me how my mother was. I said, she's fine. She doesn't get around much anymore, you know. At some point in the conversation, I reached over and touched his sleeve. His left arm began to crumble slowly before my eyes. It was like some magic trick, but it wasn't a trick. I could see that. His arm was completely gone now. Then I touched his other arm. The same thing happened. The slow crumble, the disappearance. He kept on talking, mostly about me. Then I touched his leg, first one, then the other, and his chest, until he was only a head talking. That's when he said, you're my only son after all, and I wouldn't want anything to happen to you.